Right, so you're going to share some tips on irrigation today then? Yeah, irrigation on new fruit trees, because that is what I want to talk about. A lot of people again. And what makes you qualified to share this information, Luke? Experience. The last few years of growing fruit trees here, and by the way, I'm talking about the new fruit trees because big fruit trees like this fig tree here, that's a very big fig tree, and we'll go down to it in a second, don't need any water when they're at that stage. I mean, there's argument to say they could do better with more water, but I don't believe that. But I'm talking about the new fruit trees, getting them established. You know, I've planted well over 100 fruit trees in the last year, and I've seen what's worked and what's not worked. And in the UK, this wasn't an issue because there was cooler summers, more rainfall, and a thick ground covering, so I didn't need to water at all. So that's not what I've experienced here. So yeah, I don't remember you having a big bucket of water like this in the UK. Now this is now Burka. These are almost all the thinkers we've visited have one of these. They're like old, ancient water tanks. So because it is a proper water. No, it's not like a little plastic drum, is it? It is a thick concrete wall. What water is that? This is all spring water. So this is from our own spring, and every so often it's circulating into the system. And you might be thinking now, actually, I'll cover it quickly. Mosquitoes. A lot of people think having an open source of water, standing water like that, is going to attract a lot of mosquitoes. Because this is circulating quite often. We have spring water rotating around the water, disrupting the surface level most days. And if you look closely, you'll see there's these little insects on the surface. I have to put an overlay of that because they basically just slide across the surface of the water and they eat the larvae of the mosquitoes as well. And it's quite interesting. I've seen these same insects on the river, down the river at the bottom. So in the side puddles of the river where there's like a little bit of standing water, that's where these show up. So almost anywhere in nature where you see standing water around this region, these show up. And that is like nature's natural fix, natural balance to stagnant standing water. So yeah, but it's not an issue really for us for mosquitoes here with this tank specifically. But if you do have an open tank like this and you want to reduce the chance of mosquitoes laying their eggs on the surface of the water, then you can buy these little solar pumps, just like small systems, they're not even that expensive. Put them in the water and they just create ripples of water over the surface. How are they powered? Solar. Oh right. Sun power. Yeah, solar pumps, sun powered, and they just create little ripples, and that is enough to deter the mosquitoes. The end goal with all the fruit trees we've got planted here is to have very independent trees like this, trees that don't need any water at all. And you can see just from looking at the branches how many figs are on this tree. A lot of figs. Not quite ready yet. It's quite a late fig this now.
The leaves do look still very lush, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
How long have we had them without rain now?
It's been, I'd say 3 months without rain now, and it's been in the 30s for most of the time. We've had days in August it's been over 35 degrees Celsius, so it's been very hot.
But this tree's not had any water.
Not had any water at all, apart from the winter rainfall. We should take a second to admire the size of the tree. Come on, look at that. Figs are an interesting one because figs only fruit on the ends of the branches, and they grow. If you actually look underneath the canopy of the trees now, the leaves, you'll see these long stems of wood with no leaves or no fruit. And a lot of people with figs, particularly, cut them back in the winter, a long way back, so that all the new growth is more compact, and then you can harvest all the fruit. Because there is no way I'm getting the fruit up there. Too high up.
I like how this tree is underneath the tree as well.
Yeah, I love that.
It's a bit bright to see on here.
And then it's underneath something else, isn't it? Nice blue sky. Right, so yeah, that's the fig tree.
That was a little bit of a dig at the people living in the UK, though, wasn't it?
A little bit. That's what we're trying to do, though. We're trying to get trees established and get to a point where they don't need water. Well, that for a new feature, the food forest. I don't think I showed that yet. That is a pull-up bar. No food forest or garden is complete until it's got a pull-up bar right in the centre of it.
Go on, you can't just show us that without doing some kind of... Good strength.
Can you do that, yeah?
Can't quite get off the bar like that, no.
Yeah.
A good strength.
I love the fact that it's right next to an avocado tree as well. Like that. You're on the pull-up bar, and then there's avocados next to you. Again, I suppose I should give another update on the avocados, because aside from the watering, which I'll talk about in a second, you can see I've left some of the avocados to stay in the tree and turn black on the tree, which is what you're not meant to do with avocados. So far I can't say it's working, as in I've picked some of these when they've ripened a lot more on the tree and they're very, very dense, very rich. You're meant to pick them, you know, whilst they're still green, but just turning dull. I'm waiting to let these trees ripen until they're actually soft on the tree, and then we'll see what they taste like, because to me, if they're not ripe, they don't taste good when they're actually ripe, by nature's design. It's a bit of a strange fruit. You know, most fruit should be picked when it's ripe. So at the same time as growing avocados, it's growing the little ones for next year. But yeah, with regard to watering though, this tree doesn't require anywhere near as much as, you know, what we hear about with these avocado monocultures. And the reason is because we're in a place where it's more suited to growing avocados. We do get quite a lot of rainfall in the winter, but I've got a nice ground covering, you know, a thick layer of mulch that is retaining the water as well. Two nice big avocados then.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, this tree, it's different to the trees because it's an avocado tree. They do need a little bit more water than, say, a citrus tree. I could actually get away with watering it a lot less than I do. And I don't water it much at all. I water it for about 10 minutes once a week with a hose from Alberca that I showed at the start of the video. So
and that's only in the summer months, I bet, is it?
Yeah, that's only in the summer. 6 months of the year I don't give it a drop of water because I don't need it. And I do.
And it produces. Does it produce? Because people will wonder, yeah, you don't water it, but does it still produce well? And do they taste good?
Well, it produces hundreds of big, rich avocados. So yeah, I would actually say it could be watered even less and still grow the fruits. I'm just a bit sentimental. I want this tree to be like the.
You don't want to let it die. How would you know if it's suffering now?
Again, looking at leaves, everything about watering to me, watering new trees and what I've experienced is just observing what is happening with the tree. Taking a look at leaves, or looking like they're crisping or wilting or turning yellow. Any sign of the tree is not healthy, you know. Then you have to go back and think, you know, is it a sign that it's not got enough water? And the easiest check you can do for that is just look around the soil by the base of the tree. You know, just create a little hole, dig down, see if it's damp. If it's damp, it's not water, it's something else. It is good to give the trees a dry period. You don't want to have it constantly wet around the roots of the tree. That's not a good thing. You can actually cause a lot of damage doing that. So you want to have periods where the soil dries out before you water again anyway. But it's just a good check. If you're seeing the leaves turning yellow, which could be a sign of overwatering, if you see that and you go and investigate the soil and then see it's very wet, and then you think, right, I need to hold off on the watering a little bit. Or if you see it's really dry and there's a few leaves that are going crispy at the ends or that kind of thing, they need to add a bit of water. So it's one of those things you got to sort of adapt. You will just learn along the way as you start to grow trees and water trees. You'll see what works and doesn't work. The idea I'm doing with the watering is to train the roots of the tree to become independent. So they'll learn to get their own water, whereas if I'm watering them all the time, they're going to be dependent on my water to fruit. So in a few years' time, the one that I've been watering loads, it might have grown really well, you know, it might have been very dependent on the watering system I had. That is going to, as soon as I stop watering, really suffer and not going to be able to produce a lot of fruit. Whereas a tree that you train from the beginning is going to be much more resilient to, you know, having dry periods because its roots going to be going down deeper and wider. And then because of that, when you actually decide, I don't want to water as much, I don't want to be as intensive when we're watering on the new fruit trees or the established trees even, they're still going to produce fruit. The first few years actually it doesn't look like much is happening to the tree. They might not even grow that much, and a lot of the growth is happening beneath the surface level. So a lot of the root structure is getting just set, and then on the third or fourth year, or, you know, a few years down the line, that's when trees can just explode with growth, and that's when they're just tapped into new part of their life.
Reservoir.
New part of their life.
Yeah, some people say there's like a reservoir in the subsoil.
The subsoil, yeah.
And it takes a good few years for the
that's
the
another
roots
reason
to get down.
That's another good reason to choose trees to plant with from the beginning. You know, different kind of trees. I suppose we'll talk about this now because it's quite an important topic. What trees to actually buy? Because you can buy bare root trees, potted trees, small trees, or you can grow your own trees. And there's a big difference in how well they settle into their final position. As a general rule, try and get a younger tree. The younger the better. Don't go for a 3-year-old tree in a really big pot. Try and avoid that. You want to get the tree as young as possible, even as small as a seedling, because then it's not having to grow many roots in a pot or in a confined space. Because even bare root trees you buy are pruned at the roots. You know, they're not the full root structure. So you want the tree as young as possible in its final position. And the best way to do that is to actually grow your own. And this is what I'm doing a lot more of here in air prune beds. So I've got a system set up, my little nursery, where I'm planting loads of seeds that I've eaten and likes to taste the fruit from.
Now don't tell me you're creating a fruit tree nursery at our house, Luke.
Yeah, well, it started as a couple of pots and now it's quite a lot. I've got a combination of trees growing in pots, you know, just like in standard pots you see, and I've also got a lot of seeds growing in an air prune bed, which is one I actually built myself, but it's just basically a raised bed. So it's a raised bed that's off the ground level, and the idea is the roots of the trees, when they grow into the air below, you know, they grow out the bottom of the compost into the air below, they self-prune, so they don't have the same it doesn't have the same effect as going root bound in a pot by hitting a hard plastic surface. Root structure of the trees is much better in air prune beds than in pots.
So you think when it's finally planted out onto the land, it's ready to go and it'll just carry on?
Yeah.
Rather than be root bound.
Yeah, because it's also a very young tree as well. You know, 1 year old from seed. You have good root structure. It's going to take well.
Save you a lot of money that as well.
And it saves you a lot of money, especially if you're growing hundreds of trees, if not 1,000 trees. £30, £25 for a tree.
Yeah.
It saves you a lot of money. Here is a mature pomegranate tree. Again, same story as that fig tree I showed before. Got a lot of nice pomegranates in it. Not had a single drop of water this year, apart from the winter rain. And that is again because it's native to the Mediterranean, it's established, and it's just off on its way now. Same with this citrus here. This is the orange tree. Again, setting its oranges for next year. Quite hard to see now because they're all green on the tree. But again, this is another example, again, native to the Mediterranean, can deal with hot summers with little water once it's established. I've planted new orange trees and new pomegranate trees that have needed water this last year. So it shows when you plant trees, even something like that where they can do without water in your area, just because the roots aren't established yet, they do need to be helped along in the first year or so.
So tell us then, how often are you watering these newly planted trees?
Okay, it varies, but I'll show you this tree over here because this is a new peach tree. This is what I put in this year, and you can look at it now. You can see the leaves of this tree look quite healthy. I have not watered this tree for, I'd say, 2 weeks now, and because it's showing no signs of needing water, the leaves are looking nice and green and vibrant, I'm not going to water the tree, because the goal is to water this tree as little as possible. I want this tree to search wider and deeper with its roots for water and do it on its own. And even if that means it's not going to have much growth at the top half of the tree to begin with, I know that a lot of good work is happening beneath the soil, beneath the surface level, and once it gets its roots set in deeper, it will just explode with growth, and it will be a lot more resilient to drought in the summer. And it's interesting as well, I've seen there's a peach tree I planted the year before further down the terraces that's triple the size of this tree, and it was the same story as it was this year with this one, last year with this one, but now this year it's just barely needed any water at all. And I watered it
in the second year.
Yeah, in the second year. I've watered it probably 3 times throughout the summer. So this tree, when I planted it, I watered it in if it wasn't going to rain. It usually rains when you're planting because this was deciduous, so it's planted in the winter. It rained, watered it in, and only from, I'd say, July, when it really started to go brown and dry out, that's when I had to just regularly check the trees around the food forest, like this one, and see if it needs the water. And it was probably, I'd say, once every 3 weeks throughout the summer I've been watering this tree at the moment.
And you're just gauging that off what the leaves look like?
Yeah,
or?
Yeah. That's why it's quite important to walk around and check, because you don't want to see a fruit tree suffering, or catch it too late basically. You want to catch it whilst it's just showing signs of needing water to help it along, because then it gives it a new stretch of life.
So you're almost trying to stress it out a bit, but not let it die.
I'm trying to push it to the limit. I'm trying to get it to go as far as it can without needing extra water. And then if you can do that successfully, then it's going to be much more set up to just explode with growth, become much more independent, and
so you're saying you might not see much. I'm doing a lot of clarification here, Luke, because this is an important topic.
It's important.
So you're saying you might not see much growth in the first 2-3 years, but then 3-5 years in, you're saying have faith.
I'm saying be patient, and this is again one of the things about you have to be patient with fruit trees. Fruit trees don't have the instant reward as growing annuals. You don't get your fruit in the first year, but trust me, if you wait and you plant heavy and you're patient enough, you'll be rewarded big time.
Rewarded in bucket loads.
Bucket loads.
Well, that's why they say the fruit of my labour. What is it?
Yeah, I know, the fruit's your labour.
Yeah, the fruit's your labour.
Good saying, but it needs to be applied correctly, yeah. I like to think of it differently. I like to think of fruit trees being the passive income of the growing world. And it's where you want to put your money, because that is where you're going to get the most passive return.
It is like printing money, isn't it?
Yeah.
When they're in, and when they're 5 years in,
see
just printing fruit.
This is the thing that I think more people need to understand, right? I don't mean this in a negative way.
You do though, don't you?
I kind of do actually. I do find it quite irritating. You cannot buy good tasting fruit nowadays. No matter how much money you have, you can't buy good fruit. Even if you go to you can get some, but it's rare. This is the point. If you go to an organic local farmer's market, you might get some good fruit, yeah, or a good supplier. There's the off chance. But more often than not, when you are buying fruit from supermarkets or even farmers markets, it doesn't taste anywhere near as good as it should. And this is why the only option is to grow your own trees and grow your own fruit. Because when you grow your own fruit, trust me, it tastes so good. And I do believe fruit is the optimal food for humans. I mean, when you think about it, any food in its natural form, without any cooking, any additional fats or salts or sugars, doesn't taste good apart from fruit. Fruit is the one that just feels complete and feels so right. And not only does it make you feel really light and vibrant afterwards, like if I'm going on a tennis court, I've got a competition. If I've eaten a heavy cooked meal versus eating a bowl of fruit, my performance is completely different. I'm much lighter and alive on the court of eating fruit. So yeah, I want to have fruit year round on these trees, and then I've got my own supply.
Yeah, see, it's looking very brown down here, isn't it, Luke? Apart from the trees.
Yeah, that is what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to green up this landscape by growing trees that are not only native to here and help create the canopy green shade, but also change the conditions around. This is honestly like a thriving meadow for, I'd say, 4 to 6 months of the year. Full of flowers, full of greenery, but in the summer it does bake dry. And
yeah, it's just natural, isn't it?
It's a natural cycle, yeah. I've not trimmed the ground.
But you think you can keep this green even during summer?
Yeah, without even flooding the ground with water. So I'm not intending on heavily watering this. I'm intending on planting trees that can cope with the conditions like this. These are the toughest conditions we're going to get right now, because there's a single tree in quite an exposed area. They're going to have to be quite strong trees to deal with it if they're not getting much water. So I have planted, like mulberries, loquats. That's a persimmon. These are citrus again. Different trees, and I'm also putting in support trees in between, like moringa and jacaranda, strawberry tree, carob tree. So that is what I'm trying to do here. And once they start to green up, grow a little bit bigger, get a little bit more established, they will then change the conditions around. It will really start to, not only look greener from the surface, but also when you're walking on the trees, it'll be a little bit cooler. And then obviously 10 years down the line, it's going to completely transform the look of all these lower terraces, and hopefully it'll look a little bit like that. It won't do, because oak trees take a long time to grow, don't they?
Well, you know what's funny? I tried to transplant one of them cork oaks.
Yeah.
A tiny
little seedling like that
thing, yeah, and I couldn't even pull it out of the ground. The root was that deep.
See, that shows oak like this. That's the show, right? You think a little seedling like that But I bet
I went into the forest to try and get one, Luke, but the root was just not letting me have it.
Yeah, so it shows a lot of the work is happening beneath the surface. You know, you think you see a little seedling like that. That tree you tried to pull out will probably just explode with growth in the next few years because it's been working really hard in its root structure. I mean, oak trees are slow growers. I'm not gonna lie, they are very slow growers. So it's not the same exactly.
Yeah, but look at it though. Look how green that is.
Yeah.
Apart from our house over there.
This is a peach tree that I put in the year before, the one that I showed at the start of the video. You see straight away the size difference, but also again look at the leaves, looking very healthy. And this has had hardly any water this year, only a few waterings this summer. So again, I've made sure to give a nice thick mulch around the base of the tree, because not only is it going to help to retain the water in the soil for much longer, it's also going to help to, you might have seen this if you water dry soil. When you water dry soil, all the water just runs off the surface, whereas when you have a mulch on the ground, whether that's wood chip, straw, leaf mulch, anything like that, it soaks in much better and doesn't run off down the side. So we want to be able to, when it comes to watering, we do actually want to be able to saturate around the base of the tree or the drip line of the tree, and having no mulch on the ground makes it harder.
So again, how often? So this is second year tree. How often?
This has only been done a few times this year, and we're in late August now. And when I've watered it, again, it's one of those things you could look at the ground, try and saturate around the base of the tree, and it might take less water or more water depending on what soil type you have. If you've got like heavy clay soil, you might get hold the water much easier, whereas if you have sandy soil, it can just drain through quite quick. So it depends on the soil.
And so what are you watering these trees with then? Just the spring water and a hose?
Yeah, rainwater would be ideal, and rainwater is naturally soft water, which I'll talk about in a second. But I'm using spring water for all these trees, and I know that is good water. And actually I've got a water softener on the spring tap, which I don't technically need because the water itself is already very good. But
you're saying rainwater will be better?
Yeah, rainwater is soft water, and what I mean by this is soft water is much better absorbed by plant roots, and also it doesn't contain any hard minerals or salts that can actually degrade the land over time. And this is an issue that some people have when it comes to watering from well water or mains water that has high amounts of minerals and salts in. That can actually stay on the land and degrade the soil over time. So you want to be very careful about using water like that. If you do happen to have hard water, you can easily invest in a water softener. And I was actually gifted a water softener by Plant Surge for the annual gardens, which is a separate topic I can talk about at a different time. But basically it's just like the one I've got is just 2 magnets around the hose, which helps you soften the water. Interesting as well, they say the best water, the softest, most charged water is in after a thunderstorm, and that is when it's electrically charged in the sky. So magnets can do a similar thing, like a magnetic field in the water. But yeah, spring water, very good option. If you've got mains water, and there's a chance, unfortunately, it will have traces of chemicals in it, because most mains water around the world now does have chemicals in it. That's just the way it is. So you might want to filter that before you put it on your land. Again, invest in these systems in the beginning before you go and spray all the water over your land around your trees. Might be a wise idea, because you don't want to invest in land and fruit trees, put a lot of effort in planting trees, and then realise just by choosing the wrong water you're actually causing more damage than good. So yeah, it's very important to consider what water to water with, as much as it is how to water. Yeah.
Alright, thanks for that. Thanks for them tips, Luke, and that important warning at the end.
Yeah, you've been warned. So if you've got land now and you're degrading it,
take care of it.
Being warned, and yeah, correct it. It's never too late to change.